I want to thank the circle for having me today. I was really touched at this opportunity. And when I spoke with Ken about this talk, he said to me, I don't want you to lecture about healing. I want you to tell your story. I said, okay, I can do that. And I sat down to put my story together, and I realized I never told my story in public. Yeah, this might be a little emotional.
Get some tissues.
Please. So I want you to know you're the first to hear it. I've spoken to groups, I've done workshops, I've taught a lot of things, but I don't talk about myself. So it does start. My journey started back in 1988. I have two younger brothers. One of them was 17 at the time, and he went into kidney failure. So it was July 8th. It was a Friday afternoon, and I was really close to my brother. I would go see him a lot, and I spent time there, and I had been working, but I had this overwhelming urge to take a break from what I was doing and go see him. Now, he had been in and out of consciousness. He was very weak. He had less than 4% kidney function left. He hadn't eaten. He hadn't drank in days. And I really didn't expect him to be conscious when I got there. I walked into the room, and my mother was next to him on the bed, and my brother's wide awake, and his eyes are like saucers, and he's looking around the room. And you could tell he was seeing spirit. Now, my little brother was also Down syndrome. He was born with a heart condition. He was born with weak kidneys and the challenge of Down syndrome. So when he saw me walk in the room, he looked at me, and in this very weak voice, he said, I am well. I am healed. Well, the words didn't match the body, and I was in my 20s. But the impact of those words never left me. Now, that was like at 3 p.m, 8 o'clock that night. He went into full cardiac arrest and passed away. I couldn't get those words out of my head. Now, at the time, I was a couturier. I had a dress shop in Quakertown. I did custom sewing, designing, made patterns, alterations, and I loved what I did. I feel like it was a bleed through of a lifetime because it wasn't something I studied, but I was doing it professionally. But after my brother's death, there was that nudge that I needed to move on. So within 3 months, I closed my shop. I let go of 2 employees. I got a divorce. I moved, and I went into massage therapy. Now, I had taken a massage therapy course, so I was familiar with it. I got this fabulous job in a chiropractic clinic. And I would see patients 4 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. It was patients from the clinic. And then Saturday, I worked with guys who were in a psychiatric unit at Northwestern Institute. Now, these guys, this unit was all made up of men from the railroad. So we're talking big, 250, 300-pound guys. They were in there for dual addictions, violent behavior. Some had criminal records, et cetera, et cetera. And this was a pilot program. So this was back in 1991, when massage was not considered a professional healing modality. So starting a pilot program in a psychiatric hospital was a challenge, and I took it on. I was thrilled. And during this period of time, I was studying everything I could get my hands on, craniosacral work. I got my Reiki Mastership in Yusui and then Shambhala Reiki. I went on to study other body work, and my passion of all time was the body-mind connection. So in 1991, I go and I work with these guys. They were brought to me, those that were safe, that could control their behavior. They would come to me on Saturday mornings. And under the power of touch and the work that I did with them, memories would surface, emotions would release. They had experiences that they hadn't had in the hospital. So they'd go back to their therapist at the hospital, tell them what was going on with massage therapy, and they thought I was doing something foreign, because they couldn't believe or understand how touch could evoke such emotion, how it could bring things to the surface that these guys really needed to work on. I was happier than a pig in a mud puddle. I was loving what I was doing. I had created a new life for myself. I did some traveling in the meantime. I continued my studies, and life was good. Now, working on these big guys, it's really important because if you can imagine a really big guy and a really small massage table, it took some physical strength. And I was minding it in my shoulders because massage therapist, you use more than your hands. You also use your arms, your elbows, there's body mechanics. And I gave it all I had, but I was minding it. So I went to the chiropractor thinking he was going to adjust my neck and shoulders. And he picks up my arm. He goes, "Oh no, the problem's in your lower arm." Now, if you know anything about the arm, it's a hinge joint. Well, he applied a lot of force, but he applied it this way. And he popped my elbow. He dislocated my elbow. He popped the nerve out of the channel. I couldn't even lift my car keys. And that was the last day I ever did massage. It took over a year to get use of my arm because I wouldn't let them cut my arm. They wanted to cut it, remove the nerve, and move the nerve, and I was going to do that. So anyway, I entered probably one of the darkest periods of my life because here I built a new life. I was passionate about what I was doing, and it came to the screeching halt before I really got very far with it. But in the middle of the darkness, there was still a light. I had read an article about a woman in Colorado. Her name is Jeanette Crowley. She channeled White Eagle at the time. And I got to speak with her, and she was teaching something called light body. And the light body is a study of learning how to work with the energy of your soul. It's done in meditation. It's done with some sound. And it helps to expand your awareness, to raise your vibration. You learn how to harmonize relationships, set a healing space, facilitate self-healing. You put yourself in a higher flow of consciousness. And it was a study. It was an ongoing study that I did in Colorado and then later on in California. And I learned a lot about healing. Started to answer the question that was in my mind when my little brother said, "I am healed." I learned how powerful our minds really are because we would be guided into these meditations, learn how to work with the light of our soul. And you get yourself into such a place in consciousness that you can actually raise your vibration. You can facilitate healing within your own body. So now I had accumulated the knowledge of the power of touch, power of the mind, and a lot through intention. So I'm working with light body. I'm starting to put my life back together. It's getting brighter and lighter. And then I was introduced to Don Campbell. Now, Don Campbell ran a sound school. I think he was from Colorado originally, but he came to Pennsylvania in Poconos, and it was a year program. And he taught us how to use our voice to facilitate healing within. And his story, I mean, there was no doubt in my mind until I was done with his training, because his own story is he had a blood clot in his brain and he wouldn't let medicine do anything about it. And he actually used sound to break up the blood clot, to dissolve it without any adverse effects. So that was 1994. In 1995, now understand, I'm doing studies because I couldn't do massage therapy. My son is born. Now, my son, God bless him, he's 30 years old now. He's going to be 31 this year. He had a rough entry into this world. He had a liver issue that nobody could figure out, and he was severely jaundiced. And I remember calling the doctor up saying, "There's something wrong here. He's jaundiced. He's crying all the time. He doesn't want a nurse." And they said, "Calm down. You're a new mom. Don't worry. Just put him in the sunlight." And it was like my fifth phone call to the fifth doctor when I said, "I've got a problem here." I said, "My newborn looks like an African-American." I said, "I'm white. We got a problem and nobody will hear me." Went in the hospital. It was at that point in time, I actually parted ways with Western medicine because they never really helped my son. He was under Billy lights for 6 weeks. The jaundice didn't go away. He was at a dangerously high bilirubin level. It was over 20, which is where brain damage occurs. So I knew I had to do something. And like a mom, those of you who are mothers, you'll do anything for your child. The universe once again blessed me with the path forward. And I was introduced to bioenergetic medicine. And bioenergetic medicine works with the energies of the body, and it worked with frequencies. to restore balance so the body could heal. Well, I studied everything I could about this process. I studied with a woman based out in California. And then my son became my first patient. And this healing paradigm saved my son's life. He would not be on this planet today. And it was all using frequencies. And I use this in my practice. I've had a practice for 30 years now. And I work with the same healing paradigm that uses frequencies to help balance a person's body that allows healing to take place. So over this period of time, I accumulated more tools in my healing toolbox. I studied some homeopathy. I worked with botanical tinctures. I studied nutrition. I had 2 different health coaching trainings that I took. One was in functional medicine. So while I started out in massage therapy and thought that was the only thing that I could do, because I had no degree or training in anything else, so many years later, I now had all these other tools in my toolbox that I could do so much more with. And I still incorporate the techniques working with body and mind, but I just don't do it through massage therapy anymore. In 2010, I pulled all my knowledge together and I created this workshop called Empower Your Inner Healer. It's a series of 6 meditations, and I literally teach people how to tap in to their own ability to heal. And it's based on 3 tools that everybody has access to: the power of sound, the power of the mind, and the power of intention. Frequencies travel through intention. So when you set an intention, you're already directing energy there. So through meditation, can you imagine how much more powerful it is when you set an intention and you start directing your energies towards a specific purpose? So I create this wonderful workshop and I look at it and then I stuck it in the filing cabinet. I didn't think either the world wasn't ready for it or I wasn't ready for it. So it sat there for 10 years. And I continued along in my private practice. And about 10 years later, I pull it out of my filing cabinet and I saw it in a whole different light. I had grown, my work had grown, and I was ready to bring this out. So I had created a test pilot group and it was received really well. And then I started presenting it in other places. Sometimes I present 2 out of the 6, sometimes I present all 6, but every meditation in this workshop stands in its own merit. I have one on forgiveness. I have one meditation on self-love. I have one on teaching people how to balance the chakras. There's a meditation called Temple of Light, and I teach you how to bring the light in, how to lift your vibration and let go of what you're ready to let go of on an energetic level. It really doesn't have to take months or years sometimes. When you set the intention and you're ready for that healing and you embrace that healing, you can facilitate it. You're all very powerful human beings. We all carry the same light within us. It's just knowing how to direct it and use it. So my brother's statement from 1988, I am well, I am healed. That workshop was really the culmination of my understanding of what healing really is. And I love facilitating it. I have offered it here to the circle. And it's scheduled for in March. If you're interested, there's 2 different Saturdays. So one Saturday, I will do 3 meditations. And then the following Saturday, there's going to be 3 more meditations to complete the workshop. And if you start in the beginning, you're there till the end. Nobody can come in halfway because I create a safe container at the beginning because you're mixing your energies, you're blending them. And I want you to have a safe place to experience. So once you develop that safety, because it's also energetic safety, we're not going to bring new energies in on the second Saturday. Okay. I am again in a very challenging season of my life. I have been caring for 2 elderly parents for 2 years now. My father has dementia. My mother has Parkinson's and congestive heart failure. And I drive, it's a 60-mile round trip almost every day. And I go over and I take care of them both. My mother's wheelchair bound now. She's on oxygen 24/7. She's really close to making her transition. And then I come back home and I do my work and I do life and take care of everything else that life's thrown at me right now. But I can tell you, the reason I'm sharing this is because I practice what I teach. I would not be able to stand up here right now and share this with you had I not keep myself balanced and healthy and strong. And I have to work at it, but I use the same techniques that I teach in my workshop. That has given me the strength and the skills to do everything that's on my plate. Because it's like a big plate of spaghetti and the spaghetti's falling over. Also in the journeys, because I do incorporate the power of sound, the power of mind, the power of intention, I use some of my crystal bowls, which really enhances the experience, especially when I work with the chakras. There's also one that I'm going to include when I present here, and it's working with subpersonalities. Because our subpersonalities are part of our consciousness that might hold limiting beliefs. They're really not in alignment with who we are, but we've taken them on at some point from some experience, sometime in our life, and it has set up a pattern. And I teach you how to bring that subpersonality, that part of consciousness up to who you are today, just evolving its perspective. And you can do all of this energetically with the power of the mind. You all have the ability to do it. So that is my journey, notes of my journey. Starting with my brother. And now I am beginning to step into a whole nother level of my work going forward because I've acquired another system of healing that works all with sound. And it takes your voice. You talk for like 10 seconds, it evaluates your voice, and it can tell you a lot about your state of health. And it also creates frequencies to fill in where you're missing them or where they're imbalanced and they need to be rebalanced in your body. And just by listening to these frequencies, it facilitates healing on a cellular level. Very powerful. And I'm still learning it. There's just so much to it. The field of healing with sound is breaking wide open. They're finding that sound frequencies can obliterate malignant tumors with no surgery, no chemo, no nothing. It's all about frequency. Our universe is energy made up of frequencies, and so are we. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.